Welcome back to WION World is One. Thank you so much for staying with us. The Indian Prime Minister is holding bilateral talks with President Donald Trump at the White House. The bilateral meeting comes hours after President Trump announced reciprocal tariffs on all trading partners. In the comments made before opening the bilateral meeting, President Trump said that he expects wonderful trade deals with India and said that we're going to make some wonderful trade deals for India and the United States. Prime Minister Narendra Modi praised Trump's efforts on ending the war in Ukraine as well and said that India was not neutral but on the side of peace. The Prime Minister added that there were no solutions to be found on the battlefield. He reiterated that this is not the era of war.
We're just going to get along well. We're going to get along with all countries. We're going to do very well. We're going to be doing, I think, record business, record numbers. And we're going to work with India also. We have some very big trade deals to announce in the very near future.
अमेरिका विश्व का सबसे पुराना लोकतंत्र, भारत विशाल लोकतंत्र और इसलिए हम दोनों का मिलने का मतलब 1+1 2 नहीं, 1 और 1 11 होता है और ये 11 की तख्ती वो ताकत विश्व के कल्याण के भी काम आएगी.
All right, for more on this, we're now being joined by Dr. Christine Fair, Professor in Peace and Security Studies Program at Georgetown University, joining us live on the broadcast from Washington, D.C. Dr. Fair, thank you so much for joining us on WION A World is One. Of course, we just heard Prime Minister Narendra Modi and U.S. President Donald Trump discuss the Russia-Ukraine war as well as trade deals. When it comes to the Russia-Ukraine war, Indian Prime Minister has made it clear that it's not that India is neutral, it's that India is on the side of peace and there's no solution to be found on the battlefield. That being said, how do you see the role of India and the United States and perhaps their partnership in resolving the war in Ukraine, and also when it comes to other geopolitical issues that we're facing at the moment?
With respect to the Ukraine issue, quite frankly, that's just out of my wheelhouse. Trump is very pro-Russia. And so if you look at the appointments that he's made to his cabinet, these are cabinets that Putin himself would be very pleased with. Secretary Hegseth has also made some pretty disparaging comments about Ukraine and what are going to be the terms of truce that, quite frankly, are offensive to the Ukrainians. So India, I find the position that India is pro-peace when India itself has not criticized the primary progenitor of the conflict, and that, of course, is Putin. Putin had an unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. So this is the kind of, I would say, vapid things that politicians say that don't actually mean much on the ground. But I think there are larger issues that we haven't yet to hear anything about. One of the things that was much talked about back in 2005 with the Indo-US civilian nuclear deal was the possibility of US companies building nuclear power plants in India. India has signaled its willingness to revise its domestic legislation on essentially the company's liability. This would open the space for potential investments by American nuclear firms. So I haven't heard anything along those terms. Those were widely expected to come out of this meeting.
Right, Dr. Fair, of course, I also wanted to ask you about your overall assessment of the India-US relationship and how perhaps you see that evolving under the Trump 2.0 administration.
Well, the Indo-US relationship has really been on autopilot now, going back to the George Bush administration, where you have seen changes. They've been more incremental than nature. They haven't been glacial. I mean, this is a relationship that's been thoroughly entrenched in the bureaucracies. So, there's a lot in common that the United States have that doesn't really matter who the president is or, quite frankly, who the prime minister is. Both countries share a significant concern about the nature of the rise of China, and India, more than the United States, appreciates the bellicosity of China. Right now, China is occupying about 30% of territory that India claims to be its own. So this is an important driver. Both countries have a lot of concerns about maritime freedom of navigation, the so-called sea lanes of communication. So there's a lot about the relationship that's just structural. Now, there's a lot of opportunities for missteps in this current relationship. Trump is very obsessed with tariffs. He doesn't criticize Modi, he does criticize India about India's tariffs. And anyone who's been watching President Trump, he's obsessed with this idea of tariffs and reciprocal tariffs, and even applying tariffs where there is no tariff where there is no notion of a reciprocal tariff. And then immigration. India is the origin of the third largest population of illegal immigration. There's about 700,000 illegal immigrants in India. And then, of course, there's been a lot of discussion about the fate of the H-1B visa program. And this is a program that India has a lot of interest in.
All right. Dr. Fair, thank you so much for joining us on WION World as One with your insights on this.
Thank you for having me.
We're just going to get along well. We're going to get along with all countries. We're going to do very well. We're going to be doing, I think, record business, record numbers. And we're going to work with India also. We have some very big trade deals to announce in the very near future.
अमेरिका विश्व का सबसे पुराना लोकतंत्र, भारत विशाल लोकतंत्र, और इसलिए हम दोनों का मिलने का मतलब 1+1 2 नहीं, 1 और 1 11 होता है, और ये 11 की तख्ती वो ताकत विश्व के कल्याण के भी काम आएगी। मैं राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप का, मेरे एक अच्छे मित्र का हृदय से आभार व्यक्त करता हूं कि हम फिर से एक बार प्रगति की राह पर नई ऊंचाइयों को छूने के लिए चल पड़ेंगे।
Thank you very much. And he's doing a great job in India. Everybody talks about it. He's doing a really fantastic job. A great leader. Great leader.
All right, bonhomie and friendship on display as Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump interacted with the media, taking questions on trade, their partnership, trade deals in the future. Both have placed emphasis on the relationship between India and the United States, which has strengthened over the years and continues to evolve and deepen. Prime Minister Modi also clarified that there appears to be this misconception that India is neutral in the war when it comes to Russia and Ukraine, saying that it's not that India is neutral, but India is on the stance, India's stance is peace. Prime Minister Modi said, we do have a stance and the stance is peace. We support peace efforts made by President Donald Trump. Now, for more on this, we also are now being joined by our VOA correspondent, Jessica Stone. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us. I was talking to Susan about this as well. What were some of the big takeaways for you from that media interaction?
Well, and not surprisingly, like you, I think I'm really taking away the fact that the Ukraine war was top of mind for President Trump, and for whoever in the press asked the question that got us the answer from Prime Minister Modi. And I'm not sure who that was, if it was Indian media or American media or some other foreign media. But I think it's really telling that Prime Minister Modi is signaling that he wants to partner with President Trump in these peace efforts, and that Prime Minister Modi and President Trump have an additional area of alignment, one which Prime Minister Modi did not have with the Biden administration. I found that very striking.
Right. Now, Jessica, when we talk about peace efforts, how do you see the India-US relationship playing a role when it comes not just to Russia and Ukraine war, but also the other geopolitical uncertainties that we're facing at the moment?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting question, and one that I'm not sure that we could have answered with quite the level of specificity maybe 5 or 6 years ago. But after the advent and the announcement of IMEC in the G20 just 2 years ago, less than 2 years ago, I think it's very clear, given what the Trump administration said today to reporters, that they view India as an indispensable partner in that context as well, bringing peace, prosperity, harmony, in their words, to the Middle East. And of course, that is a task that has long eluded leaders. The Trump administration, in its first term definitely made some significant strides with the Abraham Accords, and they believe that if they can bring prosperity to that region, that they can bring peace. That may not necessarily come to pass, and there are plenty of skeptics of that belief, but they see India as an indispensable partner in bringing that economic power and engine back to people in the Middle East, particularly those who have not benefited from the regional powers of oil and technology in Israel. So I'm thinking of the Syrians and the Gazans and all of the displaced refugees that are currently in that environment right now. It is very clear that Trump and his administration see India as a partner to improving that situation.
Absolutely, and of course they also see India as a very strong partner when it comes to trade, something that we've been talking about for hours now. President Trump did say that he expects wonderful trade deals with India to be announced soon. Any idea what we can expect from this?
So when I heard him say that, I didn't hear him say trade deals with India. I heard him just say trade deals. And actually, when I heard him say that, I thought to myself, is he getting a little bit ahead of himself? Is he being more, you know, sometimes President Trump can project what he wants to be true, and that they may not be ready to sign something that quickly. But that also may not be that far off, because Trump administration officials signaled earlier today that they do expect a trade framework to emerge this year with India, and it seems that it will largely take the outlines of some kind of defense trade deal. But that would be very much in keeping with both lowering the Indian trade deficit with the United States and reducing the dependence on Moscow and its arms, which is a priority for Washington under the Biden administration and the Trump administration, and could also result in some significant wins, you know, for the Trump administration in terms of increasing trade in drones, in drone technology, in engines, in jets, and the like. And this is sort of these are big ticket items, right? So if you have an agreement to purchase them, it signals a big trade deal, but it also signals trust between two people, because obviously, or two countries, because obviously you're not going to sell these types of high technology vehicles to a country that you don't intend to be able to trust on the intelligence front.
All right. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for bringing us the latest on that. And we also now have with us our correspondent, Susan Tehrani, joining us live from New York. Susan, thank you so much for joining us. Of course, we've been discussing all that was said during the press interaction with U.S. President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Susan, we were talking about the people-to-people connect, and how big of an item on the agenda is that, and how do you think we're going to see further cooperation when it comes to strengthening people-to-people ties as well?
Yeah, that's one of the major issues, and one of the most important issues really between the two countries, considering the fact that you have the world's oldest democracy, the world's largest democracy. And, you know, these are things that both leaders really talked about. It's going to be very important, not only the H-1B visa situation, which is somewhat a lifeline for a lot of Indian IT workers, but also just other issues, the diaspora here and how they're contributing to the United States. So many of them in the new Trump administration, for example, of Indian origin, and also how these two countries can, you know, benefit from cultural issues and social issues, and not only regarding technology, which we are expected to hear some kind of agreement being signed between the two countries, but also just the issue of tourism, social issues and cultural issues as well. It's going to be very important, and it's going to be very telling in how this relationship develops in the next few years and in the future as well, as the United States really is looking to India as one of its most reliable and trusted partners in the Indo-Pacific region, as you know, the Trump administration cements its foreign policy, not only regarding the Indo-Pacific, but just generally looking east.
All right. Well, Susan, thank you so much for bringing us the latest on that. For latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.